Hey friend, welcome back to my tiny garden. I was gone for a long time, a couple of weeks, and I didn't work on this garden at all. So I have a lot of catching up to do. If you're new here, hi, my name is Adriana. I garden in beautiful Transylvania, Romania Zone 6B. And you're watching the Grower's Diary, which is my attempt to document every single thing I do in the garden, more or less, every week or every couple of weeks, so that you can see how much effort is exactly involved, and hopefully so that it encourages you to do the same. So far I want to show you a couple of things today, mainly what has been going on in my low tunnel, which if you've watched previous videos you've seen that I've sown a lot of seedlings in there, and I've treated my low tunnel as a seed bed. And I think that's great, because if I would have used trays to start my seedlings in trays outdoors, then trays, they get dehydrated really fast, whereas in here the seedlings, they put proper roots into the ground and the lack of water doesn't affect them as much as it would indoors or inside trays. So like I said, I haven't watered these seedlings in over a week. We have been home about 6 to 7 days ago, and I did quickly water them a little bit before going on the road again. But you can see how much difference heat makes, because plants have just exploded. And usually my entire garden this time of year looks like my low tunnel is looking right now. Just look at all the green. Oh my god. I want to start with these lettuces because I'm so excited that we're gonna have lettuces to eat soon. So these were supposed to be seedlings. These were supposed to be transplanted in other parts of the garden, and they were, and I will show you in a minute what happened to those. But since they're so densely sown, I will harvest them in a cut and come again fashion. So that means I will cut with scissors at the base and harvest about a segment, and then go in segments for about a week. So this patch will probably last us a week until it regrows, and we keep harvesting from it continuously. And the other ones I will harvest the leaves. But just to show you an example, we have the same exact plants. Look at how they behaved outdoors. So they're basically stunted. I can't even see some of them, and they've been eaten by slugs and attacked by birds and critters and whatnot. So outdoors is not the same as undercover, and I can't wait to get a proper greenhouse. But first let's renovate this house and let's finish the yard, and then we'll get a greenhouse. But in the meantime, I'm doing this direct sowing experiment and low tunnel seedling bed, and it's working. The second thing I want to show you is my kohlrabi. My kohlrabi plants and my kale plants. Look at how large they are. Usually when I transplant my kohlrabi plants, it takes me weeks to get them to this size, but they don't like the heat as much, so they have actually benefited from the cold. And today, what I plan to do is transplant most of my kohlrabi plants and my kale plants outside. I'm not gonna take them all away from here, although I do need the space. I actually suggest that when you transplant seedlings outside, you leave yourself some extras, and you leave them for about a week or two so that you can replace them if slugs eat some of your seedlings. Moving on, another method of using this seed bed under protection is by using containers actually. And I have bulk sown a lot of flowers in these containers: zinnias, sunflowers, marigolds, nasturtiums. And I will separate them one by one carefully and just transplant them outside. And just because I had some extra space, and I was getting too excited. I've sown some radishes, and you can actually see that some of the radishes are close to being ready. And during the same day, I've sown radishes outside. Do you want to see a comparison? So the radishes that I've sown outside are this big. I still need to thin them, but as you can see, yeah, a lot smaller. Quite depressing, isn't it? I wish I lived in a greenhouse or in a polytunnel. Well, not really. It's unbearable during the day, but look at this. It's amazing. So my plans for today, my plans for the week are to transplant my kohlrabi plants, my kale plants, and start sowing those things that need a little bit more heat, like zucchini, cucumbers, leeks, and possibly even beans in a week or two. And the most important thing that I have to do probably next week is to order my tomatoes, my peppers, and my cucumbers. Enough chatting. I'm really excited to get going and just do some gardening. It's been such a long time coming. I left this part of the raised bed empty specifically for planting kohlrabi in here. So I start out by removing all the weeds. This bed hasn't been weeded at all, but as you can see, it's not as bad. I use my trusty hand weed removing tool for this purpose. And then I grab my soil crumbler and run it through the topsoil just to make it more fluffy. And then amend everything with blood meal, just because brassicas are heavy feeders and things like blood meal and bone meal help a lot. Transplanting kohlrabi plants is really easy, whether you do it from trays or from the seedbed like I did right here. I use my dibber to poke deep holes, but you need to be careful not to bury the stems of kohlrabi plants because they will form a bulb right at the bottom of the stem, so you don't want to cover that with soil. Oh, and also don't mind my spacing. I tend to cram everything in, but that's another story. I really like how my kohlrabi plants turned out. In fact, they're at the perfect size for transplanting, if you ask me. And they're really healthy too because they have been growing outside. And since they've been growing inside the low tunnel, the great part about this is that they don't need to be hardened. So I can move them from the bed behind me to this one with no added work. It's 2 days later and it's finally time to sow those essential seeds, those heat-loving plants like zucchini, cucumbers, squash, basil, and leeks. That's what I have planned for today. I start off with zucchini. I put 2 seeds per container. I really think having just 1 plant per container is kind of a waste of space with these crops because they mature so quickly. So I tend to do multiple plants, so 2 zucchinis, 2 squashes per container, and maybe 3 to 4 cucumber plants per container, and then I separate them young and transplant them outside. And the last thing that I've sown today were some radishes, another crop of radishes. I'm aware that these will mature later when it will be probably hotter outside, but last year I came across a variety called Sora, S-O-R-A, that does quite well in the heat. So it's a couple of days later and I finished sowing all my essentials. I feel really good that I accomplished this pretty early in the week actually, and all I have left to do right now is tackle this huge weedy area. It's going to probably take me a couple of weeks to clear the garden, and it's a continuous process clearing up the weeds, but it's something that it's so mindless that I can actually listen to an audiobook or just do some thinking on my own and take care of this. I remember that years ago, clearing the weeds on my raised beds was a full-time job, but as you can see, with consistent work this year, it hasn't been that dramatic, and also not adding manure has certainly helped with that. My plan for next week is to buy tomato, pepper, and eggplant and chili seedlings if I can find them here in the area. If not, I'll have to drive a little bit to get them, or even get them delivered to my house. I really miss starting my own tomatoes, my own peppers from seed, but what can you do? It's not a possibility right now, which also serves as an example for you guys who also don't have a greenhouse or a grow room and have to buy seedlings and do a lot of direct sowing like I do this year. Thanks so much again for watching this video. If you find value in my content, then please give it a like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.